Ho, ho, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday Podcast 365. I'm your host, Matthew, and remember to subscribe so you can join me on this journey where every day is Friday. Today, I got a really special guest. He's the man behind the magic, the spirit of giving, and the legend who's been bringing joy to people for generations. Yes, that's right, the one and only Santa Claus.
Hello, Matthew. It's so good to see you again. It's been too
Yes, it
long.
is. Yeah, how you doing? And
I
Santa, thank you for being
oh
here today.
oh thank you. I really enjoy talking with you and talking about some of the mysteries of the North Pole and some of that fun stuff. But I have been absolutely fantastic. We are getting right into the thick of the season, and everybody's getting festive, and it just makes my heart just it just
So
I can't even describe
so
it.
so joyful. How is
Oh,
how has life been treating you up in the North Pole lately?
it has been great at the North Pole because, of course, this is our busiest time of year. This is when I guess you'd say if we were writers, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We are getting to the final night. So it's and the closer we get, the more excited everyone gets.
Oh,
So
indeed. And Santa, you heard my little ho 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 in the beginning of the podcast. Santa, how do you keep your ho 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 sounding so joyful every year?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. When you see as many smiles as I see, because I don't stay at the North Pole all the time. I get out and about, and you may see me sometimes at a bookstore, or you know, I even driving down the road. I don't get to drive a whole lot at the North Pole, of course. So when Mrs. Claus and I get down here to the warmer weather and where there's roads, I enjoy a good drive every once in a while. So I'm out and about, and I'm 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 visiting and checking on people, and just enjoying my time. So,
Santa Claus,
but
I enjoyed our time we had on the last podcast, and I got some more deep questions to ask you on this one. I really want to ask you, what's the real meaning of Christmas?
well, for me, the real meaning of Christmas. Now, I of course love giving gifts. That's what I do. That's my job. I'm a gift giver, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But for Mrs. Claus and I, it's a special time of the year, and we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. That is what Christmas is about, and uh, the gifts we give are just are 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 kind of like an example of the gift that we were given. So that's what it's really about for us. And I like to share that with people as often as I can. So, but
Yeah.
that's really Christmas for me.
Yeah, what does Mrs. Claus does every day to keep the North Pole running so smoothly? I know she's a lot of the behind the scenes in the North Pole.
She is absolutely, if it weren't for her and Bernard, I Santa couldn't do what he does. I couldn't do what I do. Sorry, I don't. I There wouldn't be a Santa without Mrs. Claus. Um, and what people don't realize is, we might have talked about this a little bit last year, but she is in charge of the North Pole. She really is, because I'm out and about a lot, and out in the workshop, and and doing that kind of stuff, and Mrs. Claus really keeps everything in order and flowing. So that's and she does enjoy baking, and I enjoy her baking. But Yeah, but she's a busy lady.
Yeah, I was going
She
to ask
really
you,
is.
what does Mrs. Claus, what does she have as like, does she have like a favorite part of Christmas that she looks forward to every single year?
Well, she is like the elves and I, as we are preparing, for Christmas and all crazy things that are going on, and making sure that all the production lines are running and the toys are being built, and with all of that, we really like, in the evening, we get to settle down a little bit. We watch the northern lights. That's amazing up at the North Pole. So we like to watch the northern lights. She enjoys that, and that's how she relaxes. We may read a book, or a lot of times I'm making sketches, or thinking up new toys, and of course she likes to help me with that. But the other thing she likes to do is she sews. She makes a lot of our wardrobe. She made my as you can see, I'm in my workshop. I'm hope you don't mind. I'm not in my uh, my red suit and hat. That's how everybody always pictures me. But we talked a little last year about how one of the things people don't realize is Santa wears clothes like everybody else. I'm out in my workshop. I've got my work shirt, my work vest on, and and it gets kind of warm out here, so I'm wearing a t-shirt, but Mrs. Claus makes a lot of our clothes. That's another thing she does. She's, she really believes that you need to keep your hands busy, and she really does.
And
So,
I can see how busy you can get before the holiday season. For the kids in the world that are listening right now, what does a normal day in the North Pole look like for you?
oh, a normal day. It starts early. It starts very early. Um, and, I get up and Mrs. Claus and I have breakfast. And sometimes we'll actually have, some of the elves, maybe Bernard and some of the other elves will come over, and, we talk and, plan our day a little bit together, around the big breakfast table, because, we live in I guess you'd call it a cottage or a log cabin. Um, but it's very modest. We don't need a whole lot. But we have a huge table with, because we often have, you know, we often have guests and entertain the elves, and anybody else, at times the tooth fairy, the Easter bunny, somebody will drop in, and we like to entertain. So we have a huge table. But in the morning we'll gather around that table. We'll have breakfast and our morning cookies, and then we'll head out to, I might go to the workshop, or a lot of times I start, Mrs. Claus and I, we like to go out to see the reindeer. We've got our 9, of course, that they're they're our friends. They're more than, people may think they're our pets, but they're more than pets. They are our friends, and we'll go out and we'll talk with the reindeer, and we may give them a few special treats, and they'll run around the barn and out in the snow, and then we'll wander over to the workshop, and I'll check on the production, see how things are going. Um, Typically, Bernard will fill me in, or somebody that works with Bernard, as we're walking down through the shop. It's a very, very big shop. It can take hours to go through the whole thing, and sometimes we'll actually ride carts or something, because it's a big shop. But we'll go through the different sections. Some of the, of course, where they make the Lego blocks, and that's a huge thing, and um, the Barbie doll section, because the elves do a lot of the work for Mattel, and it's just to make sure everything is going. And then
Yeah,
I
I can
like to
see
switch.
how those days get so busy so fast.
Oh, it's amazing. But one of my favorite things is to go to the R&D, the research and development. You know, we've got our research and development department that, they're always working on new toys, and we kind of, a lot of times we'll get in there and we've got a big whiteboard, and we just brainstorm. You know, write down ideas and sometimes somebody will sketch something and we'll talk about well, okay, that's a good idea. What if we did this? We kind of, like I said, we brainstorm and we figure out the little details that will make an improvement before we even start the process. That's one of our favorite things. So, but we'll do that, and then I'll actually go and make some toys myself, because you got to stay sharp. I have a lot of help, but I like to get into my own little work area. This is my little workshop here. You can see in the background, and some of the it's a very old shop, and I use a lot of the hand tools. I'm traditional. I I I like the smell of the wood and the plane and the hammer and just that kind of stuff. All the wood chisels and I like to do that. And I'll come in here, and this is where I do a lot of my thinking. Nice big fire going, and yeah, it's and that's usually how I finish off my working day. And then I'll join Mrs. Claus because she's usually out and about, checking on production and working with Bernard. And then we'll kind of meet back at our house, and we'll have our dinner and our evening cookies, and then we'll watch again. That's how we relax. Then we'll watch the Northern Lights and read a book, or again, I'll do some sketches or something like that. And Mrs. Claus will do her sewing, as we talked earlier, and before we turn in. So, and that's kind of a typical day.
That's amazing. You probably have to be so organized there in the North Pole because you have so much projects going on at once. I really want to ask you, for the kids in the world that are tuning in right now, how do you decide who gets put on the nice list?
Oh, there's a process. Of course, we keep Mrs. Claus helps with this also. But we keep an eye on the children. We watch what they're doing. We see how they're behaving with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or their teachers. It's important to be respectful to the adults in their lives, and how they treat their friends, their peers. It's Santa. I've seen this with my own reindeer. Back when Rudy was just little, and they kind of made fun of him, and they picked on him. So I really watch that. I kind of try to nip that in the bud right away. And so I try to make sure that children aren't being bullies. That'll put you right on that naughty list. But I keep an eye on that kind of thing. And Mrs. Claus helps. She helps me with my list. And the list is kind of magical. Are you interested in seeing my book?
Yes, I am.
Well, here I've got the Santa's Naughty and Nice book.
Wow.
And in this book, I keep all those names. And this is a very special. I don't pull this out just at any time. But if I take a peek in here, I can look in here and I can see the names of those that are, that might be struggling a little bit, and I keep track of that. And then, of course, my favorite part is the nice section, where children have just been, they have been doing so well. They with their parents and the teachers and the other children, and that's the book right there. And it's, as you can see when I open it up, it's magical. It glows, and it looks like a small book, but there are hundreds of thousands of pages in that book. you'll turn a page and think that's the last page, but you'll turn another page and they just keep going. It's magical.
Santa, it's not
Oh,
about being perfect. It's about trying your best and being nice at the end of the day.
Matthew, I am glad you brought that up. No one is perfect. Santa's not perfect. Mrs. Claus is probably the closest to perfect that I know. And Mrs. Claus can have a bad day here and there. It's human nature. But that's the thing. When you've made a mistake or you've had a bad day, you know, go to someone and say, I'm sorry. I really shouldn't have done that. I was short and, I apologize. But I appreciate that you recognize that, no one's perfect and you don't have to be perfect. You know, everybody has a bad day. Oh,
Santa, with that being said, what's your favorite part about getting ready for Christmas?
oh, one of my favorite part is, as we get closer, I start doing visits. I will visit the children at different locations all over the world. And of course, I love the children. And that's what I live for. And I'll make some home visits. I may make some visits at some tree farms, Christmas tree farms, or hospitals, or you can just about anywhere. Some retail stores that help supply toys or gifts to people, and I'm all around. I even do breakfasts with Santa. Oh, that is so much fun. Santa can put away some pancakes, let me tell you. Oh, but that's probably my favorite part, getting out and visiting. Because that gives me a chance to share some of my gizmos and gadgets that I make. Would you be interested in seeing a couple
Sure,
of the
I would
little
love to see
gizmos?
something. Yeah. Thanks, Santa.
Well, I've got something here. This is my workshop, so I've got a few things that I've developed and worked on with the elves. And this, inside this box is my spirit tester. I know if someone has Christmas spirit because I can actually physically test it. And this box, I may have touched on this last year, but our power supply, we get our power from the aurora borealis. It's very powerful. And this device is powered by the aurora borealis, the northern lights. It's actually powered by the green hue of the aurora borealis. There's many different colors, and the different colors have different wavelengths, different power. And this device is powered from the green hue. Now, I don't know if you can see it on this camera but can you see that green hue in there? I'm not sure if you can see it in this lighting.
I can
But
see it.
yes, there's a green hue in there. And that is charging my device. And this device, it's very unique. And I have to tell you, when we made the original, the prototype, I have to say, Santa made a little mistake because I tested. Do you know Buddy the elf?
I
Have
do.
you
From
ever
last
seen?
year, you mentioned him.
Yes, Buddy. Did I mention this last year? This is my new 2.0
Okay.
device. I don't know if we talked about this or if I showed this to you. But this device, this is Spirit Tester 2.0. It's now powered by the Aurora Borealis, and I have the children touch both ends of the silver, and that will tell me if they have Christmas spirit. Now well, I'll show you because I have Christmas spirit. See that? I don't know if you can hear it,
Oh, that is magical,
but
Santa.
there's an alarm and it's lighting up. That means that a child or an adult has Christmas spirit. And like I said, I kind of made a little bit of mistake when I first tested this out because I wanted to make sure it worked. So I picked an elf that had a lot of Christmas spirit, let me tell you. And Buddy has Christmas spirit to spare. And so I gave it to Buddy, and you saw how it flashed and made sounds? There was a huge bang and a big flash. And the next thing I know, Buddy is just flying up over the trees into the candy cane forest and into a huge snowbank. Oh, he wasn't injured. He wasn't hurt at all, but I decided from then on, if I was going to test a piece of equipment that checked spirit, Buddy is not the elf to use. Oh, but we found it did work, and I have used that device many times to check the spirit of children and adults. And I have to say that there are some dads out there that need to work on their Christmas spirit. So if there's dads out there listening, make sure that you get that Christmas spirit because it really rubs off on the rest of the family.
Indeed, it does. And, those elves have the most magical Christmas spirit out of anyone. Do the elves ever listen to music while working in the workshop at all or anything like that?
Oh, not only do they listen to music, but they sing. And if you have ever walked, it's kind of fun because if you're going down the Lego line, they'll be singing. And if you're going down the Lincoln Log, I don't know if you've ever, people still play with Lincoln Logs or Hot Wheels. You'd be going down these different lines or the Barbie, where they're manufacturing all these. This group will be singing. Another group over here will be kind of back up. Another group will be singing, and it'll all blend together in this workshop, and it bounces off the walls, the ceiling. As big as that shop is, it just echoes through the whole place, and you cannot go in that workshop without smiling. It is like a concert. But and there's other times that they'll just play music. And you would think, what, do you have any favorite Christmas artists that you listen to?
Oh, I love so many Christmas songs. I mean, I was listening to a couple on the way home today from work, like Grandma got hit by the reindeer,
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then Maroon or the Jackson 5, they were singing Santa Coming Home, and then a whole bunch of other songs that are just so beautiful. Frank Sinatra, he sings the same song too, Santa's Coming Home.
Oh yeah, and we have our favorites. There's Burl Ives, who did some of the old, the animated Christmas movies that were about me. He did some of the songs there. So the elves will listen to Burl Ives. They'll even listen to Trans-Siberian Orchestra. You have never heard Trans-Siberian Orchestra unless you have heard it in the workshop, echoing off the walls. It's like yelling in a canyon and hearing the echo. It's amazing. So yes, music is a big part of the North Pole.
Yeah, and the reindeer are such a big part as well in the North Pole. I mean, how do you keep the reindeer so motivated each year?
Oh, the closer we get to the season, the more excited they get. And our reindeer, they're working reindeer. They, of course, I call it the 9. My 9, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. I've got my 9, but there's many more reindeer up there. They are just the ones that pull my sleigh. But they are working reindeer as well. They'll take the big, huge sleighs of toys from the workshop to the storage areas, And that gets them excited because, they're transporting toys and that's what they love. But you would not believe these reindeer. They make everything a game, just like the elves. And you'll get two of them, hooked up to two sleighs full of toys. And the next thing you know, they are off. And they like to see who can win getting to the barn to get the toys to storage. And they have to strap those toys down good because those reindeer can really move. But they make a game out of it, and that keeps them in shape for the big night. And so they don't have to work, every day, but the reindeer enjoy it, and it keeps them in really good shape. But that, and of course going in and out of the workshop, with the music playing and the elves singing, and it's magical, and it just keeps everybody festive and in the Christmas spirit. The elves, the reindeer, everyone. So yeah, so it doesn't take a whole lot because they're always excited about it.
Yeah, Santa, for that big night, the reindeer, what do the
Yes.
reindeer eat to stay strong enough for the whole trip?
Well, one of their favorites is they actually call it reindeer moss. It's what it is lichen, and it's a very short plant that grows up in the Arctic areas, and they kind of scratch down through the snow, and they can eat this lichen, and that surprisingly gives them a lot of energy. But on top of that, I like to give some special treats, raisins, apples. I have found that they really like the honey crisp apple. Have you ever had a honey crisp apple?
Yes, I have, Santa.
Oh my goodness. Those are delicious. And they really like those. And that's kind of a special treat. So, that kind of really gets them charged up. But did you know, I've got an interesting fact about reindeer. Did you know that the reindeer, those are the only deer in the deer family that the males and the females grow antlers? And did you know that they shed those antlers every year?
Really?
Oh yeah, and I've got a pair here, that you might be interested in.
Wow.
These are actually the vixen's shed. You can see it's still got some of the velvet on the antler here, but these are actually small. The vixen, is a female, and the female antlers don't get near as big as the males. The male antlers, actually, I could not keep them in the frame if I had the male antlers. They can get up to 51 inches tall. That is huge. And to see those majestic animals with those huge, huge racks of antlers, it's amazing. And when they shed those, we collect those, and you'll see them out every once in a while. But aren't these impressive for just a small set of antlers? These might be maybe 24 to 28 inches tall or so. And like I said, the male can be almost 2 times that. But
wow.
I like to take these. Sometimes I'll take these with me when I go to visit children because they want to see to touch the antlers and to kind of feel that, see what they look like, to get a better understanding of the reindeer.
Us talking about the reindeer, that reminds me of a time that I left out some carrots for the reindeer on Christmas Eve, and I left a big cookie for you. You ate a big bite out of that one year. And the carrots were on my front lawn. You must have went up the chimney and fed gave the carrots to the reindeer, and they gobbled them up, and then the leftovers were on my front lawn, and I'll never forget that moment.
Oh, sometimes right at the end, where it gets to be the big fat end of the carrot, Sometimes they'll leave that, you know, and I think they really do that just for the children to see because they like that part too, but they like to do that. They like to leave their mark. And it's and like you, the children all get so excited when they see that. Um, and there are times where, I'll eat a cookie right down to the last bite and just leave that little bit, or maybe just a little bit of milk, so they know that I've been there. Yeah, it's magical for Santa. I just love it.
Santa, what
And
is
I
your favorite type
appreciate
of
you doing
cookie?
that. Oh my goodness, my favorite type of cookie. Um, I would have to say I like the round ones and the square ones and the ones that are shaped like ornaments. And, I like you know, it's very difficult to nail down my favorite cookie.
Sounds like all of
Oh,
them,
but
Santa.
well, you may have something right there. It's just, I like the store-bought. I like the homemade. It's a cookie. It's hard to beat a cookie. Oh,
You,
absolutely. And that's what when we're up at the North Pole and we want to get a picture with the elves, you know, we'll usually say, okay, everybody, say cookie. And cookies make everybody smile. Just the children, everyone.
how
Oh,
does a cookie will always make you happier?
absolutely. And it gives you the energy to go to the next house and keep on the work.
So that's your friendly reminder, kids out there, to leave out a cookie and maybe some treats for the reindeer as well.
That's right. That's right. We all appreciate it. Uh, I another thing. I've got some other things that I do for the children every once in a while. When I'm visiting, we talked about how my favorite part of the year is visiting. Just before the season, I get to visit the children and get them all excited, and I get excited. Well, I've got another little thing that I've got here. This is, you know, this little device. It is so much fun. You know, bubbles. The children, who doesn't like bubbles? And I get the bubbles going, and I tell them about our room at the North Pole, that we have a room that is just all kinds of bubble machines. And we'll get in there and we'll have a bubble party with the elves. And we get the bubbles going. And this is a special bubble gun, though, because this is a special formula. If you see, I see it right there. Okay, I got this bubble. Bubbles don't last very long, as you know. But, with the children, I always ask them, I said, bubbles just don't last long enough, do they? And they said, oh, no, Santa, we love bubbles. So I tell them I will give them a bubble to take home. So I've got that bubble in my hand. And I will take that bubble and I will freeze that bubble. So I can give them this bubble to take home. And, they can always have that bubble with them. And, that is something that they thoroughly enjoy, their frozen bubble. And I've given out, I was visiting this weekend and I must have given out 100 frozen bubbles. As a matter of fact, the one place I was at, it was a tree farm, and the children and the parents came in to buy wreaths and get Christmas trees, and they got I got to visit with them while they did that, and I was giving children frozen bubbles, and the next thing I know, I had the people at the tree farm all gathered around saying, Santa, we keep hearing about frozen bubbles. The children are so excited. So they gathered around and they wanted frozen bubble, the adults. And I was so excited. So I froze a bunch of bubbles like that, and I had a whole handful. And the adults were just like the children. They were getting their frozen bubbles, and they were so excited. But yeah, just little things like that, just for the children to enjoy.
That is so
Another
special,
little thing
Santa.
I do. Well, oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and there's so much
So,
magic behind everything you do. And I really want to go circle back a little bit about the reindeer.
sure,
Now, do the
sure.
reindeer ever compete about who's the fastest? And can you dive in a little bit deeper into what is the reindeer games?
Well, I can. Those reindeer are very competitive. Let me tell you, and they are all fast. They are all very fast. But there is one of the reindeer that is very fast. And, it's a very close race. 9 out of 10 times, this reindeer will win. Occasionally, on just certain days, Rudolph will beat this reindeer, but not very often. I'll have to tell you that um, because Rudolph is very fast, but Dasher, oh my goodness, Dasher is amazing. And Dasher, that's kind of where Dasher got his name because he was always just dashing around, just zooming around. He never walks. He is always on the run. And like I said, every once in a while, Rudolph will get the edge just by a nose. We like to make that joke because, with Rudolph's nose, we like to say, "Oh, Dasher, he got you by a nose." And that just makes Dasher that much faster. But, there's a story with Dasher. That's kind of how Dasher got his name. But, there was another reason. We had a particularly bad snowstorm. It was a blizzard. You could not see, you couldn't hardly see your hand out in front of you. This was a complete whiteout blizzard. And, we found out that one of the reindeer handlers was out in that blizzard. And let me tell you, before we could stop Dasher, boom, out that door Dasher went. I don't know how, but Dasher located that elf, that handler, and brought the handler back to the barn. I don't know how, but you could not slow Dasher down. Off he went. And that's kind of the way he is. He's got a big heart. All the deer have big hearts, but Dasher, I think all that cardio makes his heart even bigger. But yeah, Dasher's it. But the other reindeer games, we have a lot of different games. That is just, races are just one of the things that they like to do. The other thing is scavenger hunts. The reindeer like to do scavenger hunts and to see who can find all the objects the fastest and get back to the barn. And, I have to say, probably, Rudolph is probably the reindeer with the greatest sense of direction. I don't know if it comes because of the nose and how he can light his path and all of our paths. I don't know if that's part of it, but Rudolph would not. You could take Rudolph, spin Rudolph around 100 times. You know how you get dizzy when you do that? You spin. You ever put your arms out and just spin in a circle, and then you get so dizzy you can hardly stand up? Well, you could do that with Rudolph and just spin Rudolph around. Would never lose his balance and is always, he doesn't lose his sense of direction. It's incredible. And so Rudolph wins a lot of those type of scavenger hunts because, you off into different directions and getting back to the barn. So that's another one of the reindeer games. And this may sound funny, but, football. The reindeer like football and soccer. They get into both of those, and those doesn't sound like a reindeer game, but you have not seen a soccer ball fly unless one of those reindeer kicks it. And now a reindeer, if they were kicking field goals with a football, they could kick the length of 5 football fields and they're accurate. They would score every time. But because they like soccer and football as well.
Yeah, it sounds like
So,
all the reindeer are pretty good athletes.
oh, they're amazing. They're amazing. They are always training. It's one night that they do the big ride, but they train, year round. Even when they'll be out, like I told you, they'll pull the sleighs from barn to barn. That's not enough for them. You know, they all they are like pro, like you said, like pro athletes. They train. They are on. We've got special treadmills for the reindeer. Because they can go fast, and you know we can. They've got these 9 treadmills in a row. And I'll tell you what, when they get going, it's incredible. Just a little secret. I hooked up little generators to those treadmills, and when they are running like that, they're hooked to some batteries, and we charge up batteries for when the aurora borealis aren't quite as bright, and those reindeer can keep those batteries charged. Big batteries. It's we're always trying to think up there about how we can conserve energy. And those reindeer, they're amazing.
I figured there had to be something magical behind, Rudolph's glowing nose. I really want to ask you, Santa, does Rudolph only glow when he's excited, or is it all the time?
He was born with the glowing nose. But there's something that you have you seen the Rudolph animation? That the Rankin Bass Rudolph, that tells part of Rudolph's story, but that's not the full story. He was born with the red nose, and it glows, and it glowed even when he was young, but it was mainly when he got excited, uh, or if he can make it glow, you know, when it's needed, but it doesn't glow all the time. It might have a slight little hue of red. Um, but there's a secret story that doesn't really get out a whole lot. I might have touched on it last year that the reindeer, you know, we get some help from the fairies. And Rudolph, when he was just young, in order to fly, this is, like I said, I don't share this a lot, but we have some red fairy dust that, in the cartoon, Rankin Bass, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, they talked about magic feed corn that helped the reindeer fly. Well, that helped, but it was the red fairy dust that really gave them their flight and speed. The the corn helped, and it worked for a while, but it was that red fairy dust. And Rudolph, being competitive, he had the natural glow of his nose, but it only takes a few grains, just a few grains of red fairy dust for the reindeer to fly. Well, Rudolph, when we were passing out the red fairy dust, I set the bag down and I was giving it out to the other reindeer, and the elves were helping. And I turned around and I looked, and Rudolph had finished off that bag. Oh my, no one had ever had that much red fairy dust. And I think that was what added to the glow. I think it just kind of enhanced the glow of his nose. And, of course, it helped fly, but I think his natural red glow was enhanced by that. Oh, and it's been glowing bright ever since. So that's just a little inside story.
On those Christmas journeys you have, I believe that when those foggy nights come by, Rudolph is your lead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the fog or heavy snow. Oh, there was a few that I didn't know if we would be able to deliver. And, early on, there, because Rudolph was born in 1930, and I had had some really difficult deliveries, before that. We never had to cancel our deliveries, but there were some times where it got a little dicey, as they may say, But after 1930, after Rudy was born, um, that nose, that glow, and his natural ability to to guide, and his ability to, he never, like I said, he never gets lost. He always knows north, south, east, west, no matter what you do, and up and down. Because if you are in a big snowstorm, it's hard to tell if you're flying up, you're flying down, or which direction. Rudolph knows, and he has been a big help for us. Absolutely.
Yeah, Rudolph
Mm.
is your compass at the end of the day. Santa,
Yes,
I
he
really
is.
want to I really want to ask you, what's one of the gifts that you remember delivering that's touched your heart?
Oh, there have been so many, but the ones that really touch my heart are the gifts, and it's not even the gifts that I have given at times, because I give gifts, and, you know, children and adults, some of those gifts are just so special. But I truly believe that the gifts that are the most special are the ones where, you know, a family, may share with someone who just doesn't have a whole lot. You know, it's the gift that people give when it's difficult for them. They might have hard times themselves, but they give a gift and share what little they have with someone else. And those are the gifts that really touch me the most. And like I said, it's not necessarily a gift from Santa, but it's a gift from one child to another, or from one family to another, when both families might be struggling and they give from the heart. Those are the gifts that really touch me the most. And, I think that's because as a gift giver, I appreciate when other people give. You know what I mean? It's so special to see people share.
Santa,
That's
it
the,
reminds me of the saying, the gift that keeps on giving. And it shows how
uh,
much you care.
absolutely, absolutely. It's just, it can touch my heart. So it can bring tears to my eyes just to see, the kindness that people show one to another. That's that's something that we really need a lot, is kindness. And when I see a gift that has been shared from the heart, it doesn't matter if it's a warm coat, a warm pair of boots, or mittens, or what it may be, but those are the ones that really touch me.
Giving special gifts really do stick forever.
Oh, absolutely. There are grandparents when I visit and I talk to families. One of the things, the grandparents, some grandparents, they, at some point, they may begin to forget a lot of things, but they remember a lot of those special little gifts. I don't know how many grandmas I have talked to who got a doll that their mom handmade, you know, and or a coat that was handmade, or boots that, you know, that someone, worked hard and bought this pair of boots. Those are the ones that, like you say, they remember that for their whole life. And yeah, that is a very special memory to hold on to.
Yeah, what do you want kids and adults to remember about Christmas?
Oh, what I want them to remember about Christmas is that it is a season of giving, a season of caring, of loving one another, and that's what I want them to remember. You know, it's it really is, again, for Santa and Mrs. Claus, as I said, you know, it's remembering the greatest gift of all. That was, Jesus that was given to all of us. And I just want people to realize, to remember that Christmas is a time of joy, of hope and giving. That's what it really is.
With that being said, Santa, what role does faith play in your mission?
Oh, that is everything. That is everything for me. The gifts that were delivered by the wise men, that's kind of something that, you know, as we give, they were giving and celebrating, you know, the greatest gift of all. And that faith, that hope that, you know, we can always hold on to that. You know, that is that's what Christmas is all about. That gift of salvation that was given to everyone. And we don't have to fear, we don't have to worry because, you know, we have that we can that faith that we know that we can hold on to no matter how difficult times may get. You know, so that's a big part of Christmas for Santa and Mrs. Claus and the elves. People don't realize that, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah, Santa, what's your favorite memory with Mrs. Claus?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, of course, meeting Mrs. Claus and, years and years ago. But I think one of my greatest memories with Mrs. Claus is just, it's in the morning. It's in the morning when we're sitting at our table and we're planning our day, and we may be talking about the day before, and and how much we enjoyed that time, and what we're going to do that day. And always, 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 the end of the day, where we have our dinner together, or our supper as we like to call it, um, and just kind of sit and have a hot chocolate and a cookie, watch the northern lights, and share that time together. That's just a special time.
Those little moments, they make the biggest difference.
Oh, that, you know, you're right. It's the little moments that you remember. The smile from a child, or that togetherness with a family. Those little moments are the big things.
And
Those
we're
are we need to enjoy that.
and we're touching on those little moments, and you have so much Christmas spirit inside of you, Santa. What do you love most about meeting kids from around the world?
Oh, you know what I think what I enjoy the most. I tell the children, because I actually have children that have asked me, Santa, what would you like for Christmas? And, one thing that tells me is that child is a giver. So as soon as I hear that, I know that child is a giver. And that, for one, touches my heart because they're concerned about others. And I let that child know that what Santa wants for Christmas is a smile. And when I tell them that, they just beam. And they smile, and I say, that's it. That's what Santa wants for Christmas. And that's what I enjoy the most, I think, is seeing the smile on the face of a child. Because, especially a very, very young child, if you see a smile on an infant or, a little toddler, that is pure. That smile comes from their heart. And there is no greater joy than seeing the smile or hearing the giggle of one of these little ones. So that is magic.
I can see how that gives you so much spirit, so much Christmas spirit, Santa.
Oh, it lights up my world. I get energized when I experience that. So that can carry me through weeks. one little moment, one little smile.
Santa, the show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday has a special energy, whether it's freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you, Santa.
Absolutely.
What does Friday mean to you?
What does Friday mean to me? Well, let me tell you, I like the fact that your show is called Every Day is Friday, because for me, every day is Friday. You know how you get to like you said, you get to the end of that week and you might have worked hard, but you're energized because you've got your weekend ahead of you. And, no matter what you've done all week, you've got that special time coming. You've got that special time with friends or family. And you are excited. You're pumped. You're excited. That's the way my everyday is. My everyday is Friday, just like your show, because Santa is free. I have joy that is never ending because of my faith and because of, everyone around me. I see the absolute best in people. Just imagine, you go to work every day and you see people, and a lot of times they're just not too happy. They may be a little grumpy. They've had a bad drive into work, or they had a flat tire, or this or that. I see people at their best. People when they are happy and full of joy. My world is so different than a lot of people. I am so blessed because I see those smiles. I see people with hope. They've got that hope of something greater. And that is every day for me, whether it's at the North Pole with the elves and Mrs. Claus, or when I'm down visiting, I see hope. And it is so encouraging. So every day for me is Friday because it's freedom every day. It's hope every day. And I am blessed every day.
Thank you for sharing that. Every Day is Friday is about bringing that energy into everyday life. And Santa, I have such great gratitude towards you because with me on doing this show and with you, traveling the world and delivering gifts and joy and the Christmas spirit, I always say on the show is like what I am is God's gift to me and what I do with it is my gift to God. And I resonate with you so much and what you're doing. I'm so grateful for you doing what you do. So thank you.
I love that. Could you say that again, Matthew?
Yes, I can. So
yes.
Santa, it's what I am is God's gift to me, and what I do with it is my gift to God.
I love that. I love that. Matthew, you have your priorities right. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing that with people.
It's one of those things I want to show that anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it.
Absolutely. you have that hope, and I appreciate that you share that with people, and just that attitude, you know, people like you make my job so much easier because you uplift others. And we don't have enough of that. We really need more. And I want you to keep doing what you're doing and keep sharing. And let me see if I've got this. Say it one more time with me. I want to say it with you.
Okay, so what I am is God's
I
gift to
am
me,
is God's gift to me.
and what I do with it is my
What I
gift
do
to
with it
God.
is my gift to God.
That's it, Santa.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Matthew.
Oh, it's my pleasure,
Keep
Santa.
sharing, keep sharing, keep encouraging, keep that kindness going, and you will make a difference in this world.
I'm gonna try my best. I'm always gonna work really hard at what I do. And Santa, before we wrap up the show, I think the listeners are going to love this. There's a place called C.W. Howard Santa Claus School, the oldest Santa Claus school in the entire world. It started all the way back in 1937, and right in Midland, Michigan. Their whole mission is to keep the tradition of Santa alive. Santa, can you tell us a little bit about the school?
Oh, I can tell you a little bit about the school. I am so proud of the Valent family. The Valent family is the family that has kept that tradition going, and they have helped me so much. As you know, I am not omnipresent. I can't be everywhere. And there are the C.W. Howard School, they do such a good work. They teach people how to keep Christmas in their heart and to help Santa share that joy. They teach, it's incredible because I go there and they have instructors, and I have worked with these instructors, and they have the heart. It's incredible. They teach they they teach all kinds of things. I'll give you an example. One of the things they do is they teach the history, my history, how I started, and where it all began. And what I enjoy the most is they teach that the heart, it's all in the heart. And I like this. This was C.W. Howard started this. Like you said, he was the first one to start a Santa school. His concern was that people were trying to help Santa, but they weren't doing it in such a way that was showing the heart, the respect for what the gift giver is all about. And they wanted people to dress properly and to talk to the children properly. And well, actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Miracle on 34th Street.
I am not.
The movie. Yep, there was a movie it was called Miracle on 34th Street. And it kind of told my story a little bit. And the actor that played my role was actually trained by C.W. Howard for that movie. And he ended up becoming a Santa helper. He was actually in the Macy's parade, and he learned what it was all about to be Santa, and to show the love that Santa has for people. And that's kind of the tradition that they have kept up, the purity of heart. But C.W. Howard, they do a great work to train people to go out and help me share joy. It's an amazing organization, and I'm always there to check in. So you'll see C.W. Howard. They'll take all the Santas to Frankenmuth. Have you ever heard of Frankenmuth? You know, Bronner's. They will take all the Santa helpers there, and it's a sight to see. You know, and the children are all they line up, and everybody likes to see all the Santas come off the bus, and they always like to say, "Are you the real Santa?" And it's like, who do you think is the real Santa? They don't know. I said, well, you better be careful, because you never know which one of us, and we won't tell you. Santa's here. I never give myself away, and neither do my helpers. So it's so much fun.
Because you better be nice, because you never know when Santa's coming to town.
That's right. And you may want to check that out sometime, because I have a feeling, Matthew, that you would make a great Santa helper someday.
And everyone in the description down below, you can go find the school. And Santa, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
Oh, the biggest thing I would like to share is to be joyful, be thankful for what you have, what God has given you, and give back to others. Kindness, and this is the thing. I think I even spoke about it last year. Kindness. You can. If somebody has a bad day, and you give them a kind word, it can change their day. It can change their life. You don't know what they're going through. Don't be harsh. Care about other people. Be kind and share joy. And for those of us who have faith, share that. Share that faith and give other people hope. So that's what I want people to do, is be kind and share the hope that they have.
Santa, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you get to the key to the city here coming up on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I get so excited. That key to me represents the hearts of all the people. That key gives me an entrance to their hearts, to their lives. Oh, it's special for me.
And it's been so magical hearing all your stories. And thank you so much for being on the show today. As I just said, thank you.
Matthew, thank you. And as I said, keep doing what you're doing. I am so proud of you, Matthew. You know that? So keep doing what you do.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Santa. And to everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it brought you some joy and reminded you that the true spirit of giving. Don't forget to subscribe so you can join me on this journey where every day is Friday. I'm your host, Matthew. Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones, and I'll see you in the next one, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.